go ahead and get started. Those who are out in the narthex can join us when they're ready. We'll go ahead and get started. So this week I was kind of struggling because all of the material that I have on presence and the power of presence I used in the sermon. So I was like, what on earth are we going to talk about in Bible study? And so the end of Thursday rolls around, and I told Jason, I was like, I don't know what we're doing for Bible study, so maybe it'll just be Q&A. And he said, wait a minute. Goes into his office and then pulls out the Stephen ministry forms that I would have loved to have had from the very beginning. He's kind of kicking himself that we didn't pull this out sooner, because this is fabulous material. I would have loved this. So I'm just going to kind of walk through this. We're going to go through some of the more pragmatic things about what it means to walk beside someone who's grieving. And so I just want to walk us through this training for Stephen ministers. And I want to point out, like, I'm trained as a pastor to do counseling and things like that. I've never been trained to be a facilitator for Stephen Ministries. I've never seen this material before, and so I don't claim to be connected to that organization or be qualified to train Stephen ministers. I'm just going to help walk us through some of their phenomenal material. And I'm kind of surprised. This material talks about overhead projectors. So I'm pretty confident that it's relatively old material. But when you've got quality stuff like this, it's rather timeless. And so,
Just the point of history, Pastor Schramm took special training to begin the Stephen Ministry program.
So this might be from that. Yeah.
No, it's newer than that.
It's newer than that. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, it's phenomenal material. And I was kind of pleased when I was going through it that I found that we went in some of the same directions. So I was really happy with that. The way that we went through our conversation is very similar to the way that they did theirs, but theirs is more detailed. So let's talk about it. So the first, I'm going to skip past the whole permission to grieve thing, because we've been there, we've done that, we've talked about that. But what they do is they break down, there are three kind of phases that grief goes through. And I found this to be rather insightful, if I can find it. Come on. Okay, so the first one is shock, right? A person who is grieving is still in shock that something traumatic has happened to them, right? That they have experienced this loss. And so a lot of that shock is going to be just coming to terms with the reality of what has happened. So the practical advice that it gives, and it's interesting that this is the first practical advice for all three stages of grief, is to be present. And again, I reiterate, that is the most important part. When I was at seminary, they pounded that into us. The best thing that you can do is to be present. Even if you have no idea what to say nothing at all. Just be present. Right? That's the most powerful thing that you can do for someone, is to be present. So as they walk through their shock, a lot of what you want to do is to accept the words that the person is saying, right? So in modern language, we might talk about this as validating the feelings, right? And I know sometimes that sounds a little, but it's true, right? What you are feeling matters. Even if what you are feeling is based on ridiculous notions or whatever, your feelings are still valid. And we need to walk through that. We need to help you work through that. right? So it's important that in the midst of shock, that you accept the feelings of the individual, right? When they express some feeling of, I can't believe that this happened, or I can't believe I'm going through this, or I can't believe that they're not here anymore, you validate that, right? I'm so sorry that you're feeling that way. And one of the worst things that you can do is to challenge that denial, right? Let them feel how they feel, right? And even if they're denying that that the event even happened, let that be. At least in the shock phase, let that be. Because they need to process that. They need to come to terms with that. If you force them through that, then they don't get to it in a healthy way. But the best thing that you can do, especially in this phase, is to be present and to listen. To listen to what they have to say. Because when people are expressing their guilt, often what they need to do is just process it audibly. Process it vocally. They need to talk about what they're going through. And so active listening is what I was taught. Right? So you hear what they're saying, but that you're actively listening. One of the problems that we as human beings have is that when we're listening to somebody, we begin to process, okay, what am I going to say in response to this? Slow down. You need to process what they are saying first. Right? And so active listening isn't coming up with the perfect response to what they're saying. Often it's just saying, yeah, here's what I'm hearing you say, right? Or responding by saying, I'm sorry that you're going through that. I'm here for you. Things like that, to show that you are actively listening to what they have to say. And then sometimes it can be helpful, and here's where you have to use some judgment. It can be helpful if you express your own grief. Sometimes it's helpful for them when they are grieving that you express your grief over the person. They were so special to me. I will truly miss them. Right? Things like that kind of give them permission to feel that same way. Because otherwise they might be holding it in and saying, I can't grieve now, I need to be strong for this person, or I can't grieve now, I need to get the funeral arrangements ready, or I can't grieve now, whatever. No, they need to grieve. They need to grieve. And so when it's appropriate, expressing your grief can help them grieve as well. Don't make it all about you, but focus your grief on the person that you both are grieving. It says to let care receivers make the decisions. So in an example that they give here is, I'm so upset, I don't know what to do. It sounds as if you have some decisions that you need to make. Yes, there's so much happening. For instance, I don't know if we should have the funeral on Friday or Saturday. What do you think? Right?